kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. Tally all the fucks I ever gave on my head. Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss. They ain't wanna help me, that's what made me a boss.
Yo, it's your man Nino Black. Y'all know what it is. It's another episode of Black Thoughts. Y'all know the slogan, y'all know the mantra. The revolution will not be televised, but it will be streamed. The inmates that run in the yard, the chicken that's come home to roost. And God steady blessing all the trap niggas. How we doing? I hope everybody's in good spirits. You know, the world will open back up in a sense. People are running around like chickens with their head cut off. I seen a lady today with no pants on. She didn't have on no pants. She just was out, happy to be out. She was assed out, literally. I'm glad y'all here. Thank everybody that's joining, everybody that's seeing. Thank y'all for being here. Today we're gonna have a discussion. The discussion is 5 steps to dismantling the black family. I know a lot of y'all reached out to me and was like why that? Do you mean a lot of people? You know, because sometimes when I'm on social media, I don't check my texts, and autocorrect be having me looking like a DO9 student. So right off the rip, people inbox me and be like, "Yo, did you mean that word? Is that the word you meant?" That's exactly what I meant. How to dismantle the black family. So we're gonna go over 5 steps. Only 9% of children were raised without their fathers in the 1960s. Yet today, a quarter of black kids are raised without their fathers. Why is that? Are we simply some busters? Simply, do we just avoid responsibility at all costs? Or is it something deeper? The inaccurate perception that African American families are devastated by absentee fathers that needs to return and do their responsibility. It's a bit shallow, but it's something that's been pushed for years, decades. So I want to get into the thick of it. I want to have a discussion about how was the black family dismantled and who dismantled it. So we're going to get into 5 steps. Now what I want y'all to do, because this is what we're going to do. We're going to open up the board. If y'all want to come on, y'all want to join the conversation, the comment section is open. Please get in the comment section. Please get in the comment section. Have a conversation. Let's talk about it. I most definitely want to hear your. I most definitely want to hear your conversation. And figure out what we got. Let's see here. Let's do some adjusting. I hope y'all can hear me. Can y'all hear me better now? Producer, we good now? Let's see here. Yeah. All right. What about now? Yeah, we should be good now, right? Yeah. All right. So like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to get into the 5 steps to dismantling the black family. I want everybody to join in. I want this to be a progressive conversation. I want us to get into the thick of it. Now, what I did was do research, and the research I've done, I wanted to see exactly what caused the black family to be so dysfunctional in 2021. Because I know so many great fathers, so many black fathers. I know single fathers. I know so many black fathers. So I want to discuss that. All right. So if we can, I'm gonna go ahead and get into the first one. The first one is black codes. Black codes. A lot of people really don't know about black codes and how it existed, but in the end of the Civil War, brought up somewhat up to like 4 million enslaved people. The era of Reconstruction that followed the war sought to remedy the equalities of slavery. And while readmitting the Southern states back into unified nations, a lot of those Southern states didn't like that shit. They didn't want to have anything to do with freed slaves. They felt like slaves, as you know, should be slaves. They should be work mules. So in that, they fought. As we see in today's time, they fight anytime we're given something. Well, in this time, they fought to create something called black codes. Black codes during 1865 and the early 1866, Southern states legislators passed a law that, according to Frederick Douglass, merely replaced slavery with some other name. So it went from slavery to black code. And these black codes severely limited the economic rights and social mobility of African Americans. The laws maintained a racist social system that restricted us, people of color, black people, from the ability to speak freely, conduct businesses, own property, anything. We couldn't even be unemployed. If too many black people stood on a corner at the same time, they would look at it as loitering, and you could be forced back into servitude. Even if you wasn't hanging out, you ain't have to be drunk, you ain't have to have paraphernalia, drugs, no nothing. Just the mere fact that 4 black people were hanging out, you look like you wasn't being productive. And as you know, the whole point of slavery was to be productive, just not for our benefit. So when the black codes was brought in place, it created a dynamic of black men that were underworked and overworked and underpaid. We couldn't create our own businesses. We couldn't own land. We couldn't own property. If we had a job, we couldn't leave that job even if it paid us less than what we was worth. If we left that job, we would be committed a crime, because black code determined that any man without a job was considered loitering. So we had to have employment even if they'd underpaid us. So what does that mean for the black family? You know, black codes and the vagrancy laws and other radically discriminatory laws contribute to the false perception that black African Americans, black men specifically, were criminals. Because again, we were charged for anything minute or minor just so we could be forced back to servitude. So all the way back then, they had already placed the criminal mist on black men right off the rip. So right off the rip, we are already seen, saw, and observed as criminals. Just for being unemployed, just for standing on the corner, just for quitting our job to find something better. Even if we started our own businesses, they even had it to where if white people sold us a house, the person who sold us a house will be penalized for it. Exactly. So the false associations between black Americans and crime influence on how police, and not only the police, but how society and black women saw us. So we digging deep. We're digging deep into this thing, right? Because first and foremost, it's the black codes. Because if you input the black codes and keep us from being business owners, you keep us from owning land, you keep us from owning property, who are we to our family? How can we be a picture of success to our family? How can we gain respect from our queens if we cannot provide? So that's number one, black codes. And for anybody who's just now joined, I just want to iterate. The conversation that we're having today is 5 steps to dismantling the black family. Number one, black codes. Not only did they keep black men from being productive by limiting us to the jobs that we could work, to not being able to be owners of anything, they also created a code called the man in house rule. The man in house rule enforced that throughout the 1960s, for welfare recipients, including those in public housing, The man in house rule sought to enforce social norms about who was morally deserving of welfare. Morally deserving. Specifically, the rules prevented adult black males from residing with the mother and the children who receive assistance of any sort. But you got to ask yourself, why is she receiving welfare to begin with? Why does she need welfare? She need welfare because of black codes. Black codes prevented the black man from doing anything. And that means taking care of his family. So she had to seek assistance. I hope y'all following me. The rules prevented the man from being in the home. So not only do you make him broke, you limit his entrepreneur spirit that he was born with, because all black people are born with entrepreneur spirit, whether we tap into it or not. You limit that. You keep them from moving forward. You keep them from being progressive. And then you tell them they can't go home to their families. They can't. There's actually footage of movies from them times that depict this actual statement that I'm making to you, to where the man could not be in the family. Not only that, they would pay the mothers money to keep the father out of the home. And a lot of studies say it was a lot of money. A lot of money. So you, as a father who's unable to successfully take care of his family, what decision would you make? A, stay there and put your family in harm's way, risk them being put out in the street and not having a place to stay, or do you vacate? Any good man would say vacate. But let's talk about that. Let's dig a little deeper. The rules sought to ensure that the woman in the house had no mail and they didn't overspend or purchase items. So they couldn't, if she spent money, and they would come and do welfare checks. They would come and make sure nothing new has been bought. They make sure there ain't no male clothes in the house. They came and done that. And in 2021, anybody on welfare, anybody on any assistance or public assisted housing, you know this sounds very familiar. You know that. This is not nothing new. You know this is something that is very familiar. The no man in house rule still apply. But like they do with everything else, like slavery, aka black code, no man in house law is now changed to something different. The no man in house rule. If you said Jared is in, if Jared is in, go ahead and bring him in.
What's up, my brother?
What's up? What's up, big dog? How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, man. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you're breaking down this topic. This is a subject that we have needed to discuss in our community for quite some time.
Quite some time, man. Quite some time. You know, so often we hear the stereotype that black men don't take care of their children. And, you know, when I have conversation with certain women, I always ask why. And why do you think that? And right off the rip is because he a bum. Because he a sucker. He a lame nigga. He don't run from responsibilities. You know what I mean? And when you're in the community, like I'm in the community, you see and you watch and you pay attention to the traumas that most of us face, the lack of education on all ends of the spectrum, not just emotional education, but also, you know, adverse and everything. Like we lack so much as a people, and then we're dumped here and it's like, hey, here you go. You know what I mean? And we get pegged that stereotype so tough that we feel defeated. You know, I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, and I was like, can you imagine having a conversation with somebody and you can't formulate the thought process or the words to navigate the conversation? How would that make you feel? And she was like, it would make me feel pretty bad. I said, that's black men all over the world. When y'all get to barking and yelling and telling us what we can't, we don't know how to navigate that. That's why most men either be quiet or run away.
Well, I think that goes a bit deeper too, because you know there's a study that talks about how trauma actually gets into the DNA of the offspring, and it stays on there from anywhere from 3 to 5 generations. So not only are we talking about not having the words to say, we're also talking about having genetically entrenched trauma that we know there's a certain consequence to us behaving in our natural masculine state. So let's take, that situation where somebody's barking at us. And first thing, because you said something about the black man, right? It's not only the fact that we're getting beat down at work, we're getting attacked at home, we're being told we're not shit in school, we're being told by the media that we're barbaric and that we're animals and that we're criminalized. We're being told that the only opportunities for us are in entertainment and sports. We're told that if we speak with intelligence that we're talking white. I mean, you got all of these different attacks on the black male psyche. And so when you're talking about us being in a situation in conflict, between us and our women, it's knowing that if this goes a certain way, I'm going to be automatically the bad guy, right?
Absolutely.
I'm automatically going to be the one that gets victimized. And I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but there's always, whenever there's a conflict situation that goes on, even when the conflict is legitimate, that it can literally be a life and death scenario with us. I don't know any other group of people that has to constantly have that thought in their mind. If I let this escalate, this could literally be life and death.
The most that happens with an immigrant is they get sent back to where they're from.
Right.
That is their biggest fear. You get sent back to where you're from.
Right.
Us, we get in prison and we get hid. I got friends that are just now getting out of prison, and they went to jail for a pound of weed. They just now get out. They've been in prison for 8 and 9 years for the same thing that Scott from Hammonburg is getting millions for.
Exactly.
I want to say shout out to Gina. Gina, thank you so much for the stars. I appreciate it. So for those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking about the 5 steps to dismantling the black family. The first one was black codes. Black codes are merely a set of laws that was put into place to purposely trip up black men to keep us from being able to take care of our family, provide for our family, and be progressive human beings. Next is no man in house. The no man in house rule. The no man in house rule was created to kick the black man out of his house. Period. That was the only reason why that was created. As of 2016, while 74.3% of all white children below the age of 18 live with both parents, only 38.7% of African American minors can say the same. More than 1/3 of all black children in the United States under the age of 18 live with unmarried mothers, compared to 6.5% of white children. These figures alone just reflect a general, generational trend. And during the 1960s to 2016, the period of that time, the percentage of children were living with only the mother, and it quadrupled from 8 to 23%. So just think about that alone. It was something created there. The black family was a thing in the 1960s. Everybody was jumping the broom. Everybody was getting married. So when you look back and you ask why black men don't value marriages, we don't value marriages because we didn't see it. It's hard to value something you don't see. All we got now to see it is Tyler Perry films, and then that film 9 times out of 10, the man is whooping somebody's ass. It's hard to value that.
Well, it's crazy because it's the studies were talking about the difference in marriages between from over the last 100 years, right? So if you go back to the 1920s, I want to say it was like 88%, something like that. 88% of black families or black couples were married.
Right.
Either 80 or 88%, something crazy high of black kids were born to 2-parent households, and the family structure was absolutely intact. And so, you consider how, when we got let go from slavery, I won't even say free because freed ain't the word. When we got let go from slavery, we banded together knowing that our power was in our family structure. So Man and woman got together, worked together, formed a partnership. Kids grew up. Our men were men. Our women were women. We were strong. We were unified. We had a common goal. We worked together. And even in the midst of, Jim Crow and lynchings and everything that we're talking about, we still had a strong community because the family was there. And you look over what's transpired over the last 100 years is exactly what you're talking about. Like, we have the vast majority of our kids being born to single parents house. But even more than that, is the funny thing I always find about when it comes to situations with Black folks is that, we always, and when I say we, I mean we meaning America, not just we as Black people. America has a very bad tendency to want to look at the effect without ever digging into the cause. And the cause is very apparent. It's very easy to connect the dots. If you want to talk about, the state of Black American as it stands right now, for those who actually care to, those in America that actually care to do it, it's very easy to connect the dots to the state of our children, to the state of our families. It's not even a stretch to make that connection. So when the family dismantles, the community dismantles, the power dismantles. It's a direct cause and effect there.
Absolutely. So for everybody that just joined us, I'm gonna keep reiterating this so we have a great understanding of the conversation, because I know we're gonna divert a couple times. But again, the 5 steps to dismantling the Black family. The first one is Black codes, created to keep Black men from being progressive, being providers for their families. Next is I just forgot.
No man in house rule.
No man in house rule. The no man in house rule prevents a Black father from being in the house with his children and his wife. The mother was actually paid. And if you are, or anyone who are getting any kind of government assistance, you understand this. I remember in the 90s, early 2000s, they putting cameras in the apartment complex, provoking curfews, doing random house checks. If it was man clothes in there, you will be in trouble for it. Listen to what I'm telling y'all. This is all stuff that is still prevalent. This ain't no shit that's been prayed away. Number 3. For number 3, man, I said desegregation and white flight. Now, for those of y'all who are unaware, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a historic Brown versus Board of Education on May the 17th, 1954, tied to the 14th Amendment. The decision declared all laws establishing segregated schools to be unconstitutional and calls for the desegregation of all schools throughout the nation. The term white flight is usually used to refer to a migration phenomenon or phenom in the post-World War II era. As people of color moved into a predominantly white neighborhood, the white people moved out. They dipped. They got the fuck gone. Now, why I said these two? The reason why I said these two, and I made them as one, is because white flight couldn't happen if desegregation didn't happen. Number one. So the reason why I say this is because you went all of these years of dismissing the Black man, discrediting the Black man, demonizing the Black man, trying to destroy the Black man, and then you introduce our women to the great white hope. Because what happened to those white people that were unable to move due to white flight? They stayed in the neighborhood. When your wife is at home with the kids by herself, doing all this work by herself, and she look across the street and she see John Rogers III unloading the car and holding the door open for his wife and kissing the kids as they go to school. How long do you think it would take before our Black sisters start seeing the white man as, oh yeah, that's a good man. That's what a good man looks like. How long? How long do you think that's going to be? When you see this white man who owns his house, can afford a vehicle, work a job, owns a property, got buildings, What do you think happened? You've already coached our black women to learn to be okay with not needing us in the household. Then you introduce them to Kenny. You see what I'm saying? Can you imagine going and being a single mom day in and day out, knowing your husband is somewhere doing whatever it is he got to do? 9 times out of 10, he's stressed. So he on drugs. He drinking. So when you see him, you giving up on him because he done gave up on himself. And here's Alan. Alan from Antioch pulling up. He's got buildings. He got everything. Real estate, property, everything. Your supervisor at work, white guy. Your manager, white guy. All these white people around you. And then all of a sudden, you see your husband who's unable to sustain, unable to have stability of any sort. Just psychologically, imagine what that does. So not only do they prevent him from being able to get employment, prevent him from starting his own business, prevent him from being able to own property, own land. Then they paid the wife, they paid the family to keep him out of the house. They dismiss him, discredit him, demonize him. Because with the black code, it gave you the okay to see black folks or black men as criminals. He in jail. What he in jail for? He was standing on the corner with 2 other brothers. What he in jail for? He quit his job to find a new one. What he in jail for? He was walking. He ain't got no place to stay. He homeless. That is a crime with black code. Imagine the booby trap you walk into when they place things, put things in place that absolutely makes you trip. You have to trip. And the moment you trip, that gives the world the okay to destroy you. Because they demonized you first by labeling you a criminal. They discredit you. I'm sorry, what you say?
We got to take this a step further, bro. Not only are we talking about the way desegregation and white flight has affected the black family, we got to talk about the way it affected the community at large, because it's all intertwined.
Right. Go ahead. Let me hear it.
Oh, bro. So every place I remember where I was growing up, because the areas I was in is predominantly black neighborhoods. I remember the black-owned corner store. I remember the black-owned car wash. I remember the black-owned funeral homes. But we come from a place and a time where for just about every service we needed, there was a black person that was able to provide that service because there was a need for that service to be provided, right? So when the unfortunate thing is, as much of a struggle as we had as a segregated society, our ingenuity forced us to meet the demand and supply that need in order to serve our community, right? So with desegregation, as the famous saying goes, we were taught that the white man's ice is colder. And so not only are we talking about everything that you talked about as far as our women seeing these examples of stable white men in their households as though we're able to just undo everything and all the years of trauma and all the years of disadvantageousness that we had. I think I just made a word, but all the disadvantages that we had coming up to that point, we can't just erase them just because we're all of a sudden integrated with society. So we have our ladies, our support systems comparing us and where we are at that point against another group of person, another example of manhood that never had to deal with the same hurdles. It's almost as though, you're judging the athlete in a race at the finish line that just had a smooth sail compared to the person that's on the other end that had to go through hurdles, dips, roadblocks, rocks, and all of that stuff, and wondering why they're not as smart as the other one. And it's not a conscious thing. It's a subconscious thing.
Right.
Environment is very important. Environment is not just where you're around. Environment are the things that you're shown day in and day out. Your mental environment. When you constantly get barraged with these images of stable white families, and you constantly get hit with the barrage of unstable black
families,
disunity, right?
Right. Well, and then also, because as you know, we are discussing how to dismantle the black family, and right now, we're talking about desegregation and white flight. But you also got to think about this: starting in the 1950s, the term white flight became popular in the United States. That's just a few years after desegregation in 1954. So several studies have found that a factor which significantly affects the individual choice as it pertains to marriage is socioeconomic status, the measure of a person's income, education, social class, profession.
So let's go on that for a second.
All right.
Because we also have to acknowledge the fact that everything is an intertwined system. So when you're talking about white flight, what happens to these neighborhoods when the white folks leave? You have depressed property values. What happens when you have depressed property values? Because our education system is directly tied to the value of properties in property taxes, property tax revenue. If schools can't be funded because the value of the homes, just based on the sheer virtue of where they are and who lives in that neighborhood, is economically depressed, you're dealing with an unequal distribution of resources, which goes down this chain. So, this goes back to what I was saying. America just has to connect the dots. We put these systems in place and we say that, this is them. They're the reason why these things happen, without ever taking the time to take responsibility for putting these pieces of the puzzle together that leads to the picture that we have today. So white flight was an absolute big deal, if for no other reason than the money that leaves our pocket and our ability to build, just based on the sheer fact of the way we look and where we are, our properties are worth less. They didn't want them no more. And so our properties are automatically worth less. That reduces our opportunities, that reduces our access to capital, that reduces our access to same quality of education. So, when things were separate but equal, we were in environments where, things may not necessarily be the same, but we had educators that understood what we were dealing with and would compensate. You get into today's schools, they don't care nothing about you. They already don't like you. They already don't like the fact that you're there. They've already, to Nino's point, already been demonized. We've already been demonized. So in their mind, we're already less than. What you expect from the quality of education that comes from a system like that? And all of these things are directly tied together.
Absolutely. And then, to continue with that, man, shortly after that, man, in 1967, interracial marriages became legal. So ask yourself, one thing I think us as people fail to realize is we operate on emotions. They operate on policies, and their policies just so happen to be based on our emotions. They know exactly how we're going to respond emotionally, and they scientifically create laws and put things in place that keeps us exactly where we are. Mm-hmm. So you got to ask yourself, we create black codes that help demonize and criminalize black men, right? Not only do we do that, we create no man in house law or rule that keep the black man out of the house. That breaks the black family up, because now the mother and the father aren't seeing each other. They're not loving each other. Then you do desegregation that allows white people and black people to intertwine and intermingle. Then our property values go down because of white flight. We can't do anything. Our schools are not being funded as good as everybody else's. So then they give it a few years to let white women see good black men, and then they say, look, let's legalize this shit. The time is now. The time is now. Let's do it. It's like Monopoly. When you're playing, it's like chess. When you playing chess and you let them take the pawn, or you allow them to take the queen in the move. I forgot what the move called. I'm just now learning chess. You sacrifice the queen just for a moment. Boom. Checkmate.
Yep, it's a setup play.
What is it called?
I don't know the name of it, but I know what you're talking about. It's a bait and switch. I'm a sacrifice.
Yeah.
I'm a sacrifice this key piece.
Right.
In order to get my killing stroke.
Right. So the fourth thing, because right now for anybody that's coming in, is the 5 steps to dismantling the black family. The first one was black code. The second one was no man in house rule. The third one was white flight, desegregation. The fourth one is war on poverty, which was established in January the 8th, 1964. In his first State of the Union address in January of 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson asked Congress to declare an unconditional war on poverty and to aim to not only relieve symptoms of poverty, but to cure it, and above all, to prevent it. When President Johnson launched the war on poverty, he wanted to give poor people a hands up and not a handout. He stated that his war would shrink welfare rolls and turn poor from tax eaters to taxpayers. Johnson's aim was to make poor families self-sufficient, able to rise above poverty through their own earnings without dependence on the war. Dependence on welfare. What we think? Was he successful? Well, in absolute Caucasian white savior fashion, he fucked it up. And just a mere 18 years later, virtually half of black families were headed by single mothers, with 55% of black babies were born in unmarried households. Hell, by 2019, the number of black children raised in single-parent household rose to fucking 64%. So he didn't help anything. He made it worse.
Catastrophic.
So you got to ask yourself, and if you all been following and been paying attention, everything that has been implemented has been to the detriment of the black man. Period. Now, I know a lot of women who watching this is like, so is this the excuse for the black man? This is excuse. This is excuse. This is excuse for these men not taking care of their children. That's like asking a man with no legs, like, why you nigga just get up and run? Get up and run. You can run, bro. It's easy. Look, I can do it. Look, I can do it. Psychologically, most of us have no idea what it is, the thing you saying that we can do. We haven't even acknowledged that there's a thing. I asked someone earlier. They said, I just think black men should go get help. And I said, can I ask you a question? I said, well, I said, did you clean my kitchen? Person never been to my house before. He said, no. I said, see, you need to go get help. You should have cleaned my kitchen. She said, why am I cleaning your kitchen? I said, so what? You didn't know that I wanted you to clean the kitchen? No, I didn't know. You didn't say that. All right. How you expect us to go get help for something that we don't even know there's a problem? We don't know it's a problem. Now, don't get me wrong. You can watch TV. You can hear people talk about, watch movies about people not taking care of their children, but that still doesn't connect in our minds that it's a problem. Because if that's the case, ladies, if that is the case, some of y'all wouldn't have children by men with multiple children. You wouldn't have children by men with multiple children who don't take care of their children. You wouldn't do that.
Hold on, let's talk about this though too. There was about 2 or 3 years ago, there was a study where they actually compared the involvement of fathers among races. And
I was gonna go there.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish.
Okay. Hold on. Before we get into that, let's do this. We're gonna take a real quick commercial. Once we come back, we're gonna get into the statistics that Mr. Jared is talking about. And please, y'all, share, like, Tag a friend. This is good information. In 2021, we got to decide the difference between when it's a time to be entertained and when there's a time to be educated and empowered. And that is every other Tuesday on the Royce's Word Network with Jared and Nino Black on Black Thoughts. So look, let's go ahead and go to commercial break. We'll be right back.
James butter. It's really good on your hair. My favorite has got to be the peppermint mist, the leave-in conditioner. It's so soothing to your scalp. I've had dry, itchy scalp, and I tell you, it's amazing.
My favorite product with Jay's butter is the natural flaxseed elixir, especially on the hair that's not mine.
Y'all know what? I really love Jay's butter. I love Jay's butter.
What up, everybody? It's your boy Royce the Voice, Orange Click, Orange Leader. Shout out to K-Team. Speak your thoughts or lose your mind. And I'm here to tell you about my guy, Kevin Lambert, aka the cell phone guy, now has a new website. It's at www.tncellphoneguy.com. Yes, look at those pictures right there. He will turn your phone from hell to heaven. Do you hear me? From hell to heaven. So y'all make sure y'all go check out Kevin Lambert, aka the cell phone guy, at www.tncellphoneguy.com.
G Street Quick Draw Gun Magnet. Unlike the competitor who imitated and sell similar products with more expensive prices, G Street Gun Magnet Mount is specially designed and engineered to provide you the safest and most convenient experience.
Do you want to access your guns quickly in case of emergency? Do you feel safe in your car and at home? Do you want to be able to hold your guns for any different situation? After our research, we have redefined our gun magnet mount for the market to solve any complaints from gun fans. We have designed and redesigned our magnet mounts, which is made from premium, eco-friendly material, excellent craft, unique appearance with quick draw and quick load functions, and hold flat surface firearms safely and secure.
Order your G Street Quick Draw Gun Magnet today with free delivery at gstreetedc.square.site.
Look, I suggest that you fall in line and show me my respect. I'm the best. None of y'all a threat. This is not a test. I'm upset. Come around here, I'll make you stand on all your threats.
Yo, we are back from a commercial break. Thank y'all for joining us. Those of you who are late to the party, we are discussing the 5 steps to dismantling the Black family. We have already gone through 4. We are embarking on the last one. We're going to tie up the last. We're going to double back to the 4th one because there's some more information we want to give y'all. But keep in mind, the reason why I named it How to Dismantle the Black Family is because quite often when I hear the conversations between Black men and Black women, we're often pointing the blame at each other. Well, honestly speaking, we have problems and traumas that have been passed down through generations. They are multi-generational issues that have been passed down to us. And we don't even know that they exist because we haven't taken the time to research our history to understand. So we're going to bring Jared back on, man. This is my constituent, my homie. Big dog. Yo, so you learned or you have found a study that may be eye-opening to some, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, and what's that?
So I have to cite the study, but there was a study that was done, and it spoke to me because I'm a Black father first and foremost. And the study was actually comparing different races, white, Black, Hispanic, Asian, and other. And it was actually ranking their level of involvement with their children. And surprisingly, well, I won't say surprisingly to me, but the group that was found to be actually the most involved, and by involved, it was everything from helping with homework, putting kids to bed, bath time, playing, daily involvement, so on and so forth. The group of fathers that was actually the most involved by a large margin, and when I say large margin, I mean like 17%, was black fathers. And so there's been this narrative that's been perpetuated that, you know, black fathers don't take care of their kids, black fathers are not available, black fathers are absentee. And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of this evidence is anecdotal. Anecdotal meaning that just because it happened to you means that it speaks for the group overall at large, and it doesn't. From look, every group has got deadbeats. We're not gonna sit here and act like they are not. But to say that the majority of us that have children are not involved, the majority of us that have children are not active, it's just an outright lie. We are very active in our children's lives, and for no other reason than, you know, we understand as we got older and we were able to make decisions for ourselves that there are many circumstances that prevented us from having active fathers, whatever the case may be. But we gotta. It's time for us now to stop. We don't want to continue these pieces of misinformation that misrepresent what our people are about, because it perpetuates the trauma.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that is the point of this. The point of this show today is to bring truth to the myth. Because like I said, we quite often have these conversations, and I hear the conversations. I got a friend of mine who is she's an amazing person. And she always says this thing to me, but it's not because they're black. It's not because they're black. You know what I mean? Anytime I talk about something or something that's happened, her punchline is, it's not because they're black. And I understand why she feels that way, because she feels that, you know, as black people, we are allotted with the same opportunities as everyone. And my goal is to prove her wrong, because that's not the case. You know, in some areas of life, we still are being suppressed and kept from being awesome and kept from being great. You see what I mean? So I want to go ahead and move into the next one, which is the final one. Because right now we've discussed 4. So we're gonna get into the final one. So let's recap first, if possible. Let's recap. 5 ways to dismantle the black family. The first one, black code. It was some codes or laws that were created. It was basically, they renamed slavery and call it black codes. There were laws that were put into place to trip up the black man. You can do anything, something as simple as standing on a corner, not having a job, anything of that nature. They kept you. If you had a job and you didn't like what the job was paying you, if you quit, you were committing a crime. They limit the jobs that you are able to be hired for. They made you unable to be able to own property, own land, start a business. You couldn't do that as a black man when black code was involved. From black code, the next step was no man in the house rule. Man in the house rule was passed between 1935 and 1968. And that gave those mothers who were married to these men that couldn't get jobs, that couldn't quit the job that they hated, that couldn't start a business, couldn't own property, couldn't own land. They paid these mothers to keep these black men out of the house and paid them healthy fine. I mean, they gave them great money to keep these fathers out of the house. So after the man in the house rule, they made desegregation. They passed the law. Well, black and white people can intertwine and intermingle. White flight happened. Well, white people will move out of their neighborhoods when black people moved in, giving the black woman the optical vision of what a progressive man looked like. A man who owns his property, a man who owns his land, who works his job, who is a father to his children. They gave them this optical illusion of a white savior. This is what it is. This is what life is like. Then from there, we go into the war on poverty. The war on poverty was the worst thing ever because it gave food stamps. It continued to perpetuate that narrative of separating the black family. Now, keep in mind, we from January the 8th, 1964. This is trauma. It's 2021, people. So then we're going to get into the last one. The last step is the 94 crime bill. For those of you who don't know what the 94 crime bill is, the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of the 1994, commonly known as the crime bill, was sponsored by Joe Biden, the person that y'all are thanking for the stimmies. The ones that y'all are thanking. I constantly see y'all thanking him for the stimmies. Part of the reason why we need those stimmies is because of him. Y'all even gave him a fucking rap name, Moneybag Joe. Listen to what I'm saying now. It's just so much, man. This right here is crazy, man.
So, you know, it hurts my heart that we as a people are able to continue to turn a blind eye to these things under the guise that
all they gotta do is dangle a carrot in front of us. That's it. Dangle a carrot.
We will forget some stuff in a heart. That was a long time ago. Well, listen, here's the truth of the matter. All right. 94 crime bill. I don't know about you, but I still remember where I was in 94. That wasn't that long ago. I ain't that old. It wasn't that long ago. And you're talking about when these bills come into effect, this thing, if I can get our people to understand one thing, when these decisions are made, you're not going to see the effects of those decisions quickly. We didn't see the effects of Reaganomics until the early 2000s, and that's the sort of thing that led us up to 2008. The Reaganomic era of the 1980s led us to the 2008 crash. That type of thinking. The 94 crime bill is what leads us to our current state of economic affairs in the black community. We can't, as a people, think that we're going to continue to move forward and make progress if we don't acknowledge and reckon with what occurred in our past and how we got to this point. That part is very important because humans have this uncanny ability to keep repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again. And that's why we're having this conversation. It's not to excuse. It's not to say that we can't get past. It's not to say that we're victims. It's to say that in order to know how you're going to take control of your future, you have to understand how you've been impacted by history. So you don't let the same thing happen over and over again. That part is very important. So while we were all gung-ho about, Sleepy Joe, and I understand I ain't trying to make this a political discussion, but I got massacred, crucified, and for me it was a sport, so I enjoyed it when I would bring up criticism to Joe about this very thing. It wasn't about, who all supported it. It was about the fact that now we're able to look back and see the impact of what that bill did to our community and to our families. I'm family first.
Right. That 1994 bill is often blamed for extending the tough on crime policies that overly criminalize Black Americans. And see, you got to think about it. Due to the utilization of the 4Ds, 58% of African Americans supported that fucking bill. Listen to what I'm telling y'all. Due to the utilization of the 4Ds, due to it being all right, because what they did, for those who don't know what the 4Ds is, they dismissed the black man, discredit the black man, demonize the black man, and destroyed the black man. And due to those 4 Ds and publicly displaying this on media outlets, it made 58% of African Americans support the crime bill. Can you imagine?
I can imagine.
58%. So if you don't need no other proof in the world, if you don't need no other proof in the world that this is strategically, systematically planned to divide the black family, they was able to convince 58% of African Americans to support a bill that got some of our uncles just now getting out of prison. Because with that bill, the 3-strike law was put into place. Under this bill, bro, under this bill, a person was sentenced to 5 years minimum for 5 grams of crack cocaine, but it took 500 grams of powder cocaine to trigger the same sentence for a white man.
Yep.
Because crack is cheaper, as any real nigga know. If you listen to Jeezy, you know. It's because crack is cheaper. It was mostly found in predominantly black, low-income neighborhoods. So for only a mere 5 grams of crack cocaine, 500 grams of powder is how much of, I almost said the wrong, is how much a white person.
I'm with you.
That's how much it would take to bring them on.
And we didn't want to talk about
the same time.
See, here's the thing. We didn't want to talk about it.
Hold that thought real quick. Yeah, go ahead, bring Mr. McGee on. But yeah, go ahead, man.
We didn't want to talk about that. We didn't want to talk. This is the biggest thing, right? Is that I criticize our people because I love our people. When I say criticize, I mean I just give you something to think about. We decided, and when I say we, the black community at that time, we decided to criminalize because we wanted to deal with the crack problem. But we didn't actually want to deal with or think to deal with the economic issues that led to the proliferation of the crack problem in the first place. We didn't want to deal with the ability for something like crack to be able to infiltrate our communities because it was one of the best, most accessible economic opportunities that were available to many of us at that time. And more importantly, we allowed a system to be implemented that not only disproportionately affected us, but the disparity in sentencing, we under the guise of we need to get crime off the street, we let them come in and ravage our community because
listen, I got a homeboy right now in 2021, the 4 Ds still till this day in 2021, the 4 Ds that was implemented in 1835 still resonates with him today to how he see black people. And what I mean by that, in 2021, if you get a domestic violence charge on your record and 10 years later get shot and killed by the police, he feels like you deserve to die. Because he sees you as a criminal and you deserve to die. No sympathy, no empathy. If you got crack cocaine on your record and the police murder you, he feels like you deserve to die. The 4 Ds were created and made and implemented. And in 2021, he still believes the same things that was implemented and pushed and suppressed to him. Understand what I'm telling you? What's up, Mr. McGee?
What's up, Nino? How you doing, brother? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing today, brother?
Doing well, man. Powerful show. Jerry spitting facts. You know, you spitting facts as always. Just want to come in, camelback off you brothers a little bit, man. We know that a lot of these. First, I want to start with a couple notes I was taking, Nino. we're speaking about words like laws, codes, rules, war, crime, right? So think about how powerful those words are. When you say those words mean we are constructing a system to really put one group of people at the top and another group of people at the bottom and keep them at a oppressive state, my brother. So I like what you were saying about these five ways to dismantle the family, and I thought those were powerful words that were been used that's been used tonight. And we also know, Nino, that when you're saying they put this in effect or they did this in 1994, we know it's just all white supremacy, man. And that's the phrase a lot of people dance around. It's become popular in the last 3 or 4 years, but some of our people still don't understand it. They hear white supremacy and think a guy in a white suit with a white hood on his head, burning crosses. But it's like, no. A white supremacist can be somebody who does it on a covert level, and then turn around 10, 20 years later, run for president, and we'll vote for him. So
absolutely.
I just want to come in and make that point. Just
no. Stick around, man. We got a few more minutes. We got a few more minutes. Stick around, man, because look, one thing that I noticed. Go ahead, man.
I want to piggyback off of that because you said something very important. Is that our people like to act like white supremacy is just a person in a white coat, and it is oftentimes us or people that look like us. Let me be very clear about that. Who come out and say white supremacy doesn't exist or white supremacy is not the biggest issue affecting the Black community. And when I hear a person say that, I immediately know, based on what they're about to say next, that you have not come to fully understand what white supremacy is or the effects of white supremacy. Nino, you put a post up on your Facebook page the other day that I thought was a very powerful post, which listed the percentages of white people in positions of power. The government, our education system, our financial system, so on and so forth, the wealthiest people in America, and how many of the percentage of them were white. And only one was less than 90% white. Everything else was like 97, 98, 99. So when we're talking about these systems, when we use the words white supremacy, it doesn't mean a white person said nigger and now I'm mad because they're racist. That's not what that means at all. That's the dumbest, lowest level form of racism. That's fake outrage. What we're talking about is like Mr. McGee said, systems that have disproportionately affected us in ways that we are still fighting to overcome. Now, that does not mean that we cannot or have not overcome several of the hurdles. What that means is we have to fight harder. We have to fight stronger. We have to fight more consistently to overcome these things. And long story short, after all of that fighting, shit, we tired, right? Absolutely. But we got to keep pushing. We have to push harder to get to the same space based on the simple fact that these things that were instituted not so long ago still impact us now. We are making progress because we are a strong, powerful, and resilient people. But if we do not take the time to acknowledge the way this supremacy system works, we will be taken advantage of again, and we will be fooled again, like we have been in the past with the Civil Rights Act, the Desegregation Act, and the '94 Crime Bill. Those were insidious examples of policies that seem like they were to our benefit, but in hindsight, we can see that they disproportionately affected us in the negative way.
If you pay attention to the bills that are being passed now, in the state of Tennessee, they have passed a permitless carry to where you can carry a firearm and don't require a permit to do that.
Saw that.
Right? Well, you got to ask yourself, if I don't need a permit to carry, how is that a bad thing? Because they do it so swift, so cool. I actually had to call my brother. Shout out to JC Shigard, man, because when they start talking about gun laws and stuff, I be looking, thinking, damn, let me see, like the wording they use be confusing me. Let me call somebody that's smarter than me that knows more. And you got to understand that when you going forward, when they start sentencing us, penalizing us for the usage of these guns, they're going to be looking at the fact that we ain't got no training. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't have done that. We don't know the laws. It's no different from them putting crack in the black community. Now they giving us a good look. When they look and they see that in 2020, black Americans were purchasing guns at a higher rate than ever. Oh no. We need to put something in place that's gonna trip them up. We gotta do it. We gotta do something. What you think, Mr. McGee?
Yeah, I mean, on that point, man, it's crazy. And then speaking about, I guess no, you don't have to have a permit to carry anymore. The thing that I guess you could circle it back around to the 1994 crime bill, right? Because you take a person who's my age, this mid-30s. When I got in trouble with the law, it was that 1994 crime bill was still in effect. I know they said Obama came and switched some stuff around and let people out, but I had got in my trouble before Obama, so I've been marked with an F on my record. So
right,
I that doesn't even, you know what I mean? That new law, it don't apply to me, and it don't apply to so many of our brothers who maybe made a mistake, 1-2 mistakes, and we didn't get the smack on the wrist and let off because the laws were made for us to suffer. And I'm a guy who, yes, I had to pay those consequences. So those are it's more systems, more laws. Like I said, more codes, more laws.
According to our homeboy, boy, if the police kill you today, you deserve to die for that felony you got on your record.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's the brother, but man, I don't even get involved.
You deserve to die for that, man.
We're too far along in the game for to listen to that, bro. If I want to hear people say that, I can go to racist white platforms and listen to that all day long. So I know he speaks a lot of white supremacist talking points, and that's his thing. That's his shtick. That's his shtick. So let him do it, bro. Let him do it. So
right now, for anybody who just now joining in, and make sure y'all share, like, invite your friends. Understand the 5 steps to dismantling the black family. 1, black codes. 2, what's 2? I forgot. I keep forgetting 2. I don't know why I keep forgetting 2.
Man in house rule.
3,
desegregation.
Desegregation. 4, war on poverty. 5,
crime bill.
Yeah, I like how you say poverty. Yeah, you say poverty crazy. You say poverty, but go ahead, bro.
I always put the R in there, yeah. Hey man, listen, man, don't be talking about me, man. The wine just hit just like right now. But listen though, man. The reason why I wanted to do this, man, because I'm in a lot of rooms and a lot of spaces, and I talk to a lot of different people. And when I be having these conversations with them, sometimes we disagree. And when we disagree, I'm the type of person that I believe that when we agree, we don't learn. We don't grow from agreeing. We grow more from disagreeing because we're being challenged. So I like to have conversation with people who oppose my ideologies, my thoughts, the things that my perspective. Like, give me a different one. That's what I'm here for. Let's have this conversation. And when I realized people are so conditioned, and it's been pushed into our brain so much that black men are not shit, that black people aren't shit, that we can't even not acknowledge trauma. I had a conversation with somebody, and in that conversation, she asked, well, they got the same opportunities that everybody else, then why don't they do this? Then why don't? And I said trauma. They said trauma. So then 2 days later, I said, have you ever thought about going to therapy? Fuck no, I ain't going to no therapy. I know what my problem is. Said what? It's some shit probably like my dad, something this. So what the fuck is that? Ain't that trauma?
No. Mm-hmm.
But that is the world that we live in. It's easier to say we just ain't shit, we stupid.
It's a fact.
You see what I mean?
It's a fact.
Yep. Because most of us do operate in echo chambers. We go find places that share our views, that make us feel like we're not crazy, that share our similar viewpoint. And we got a very, very bad habit. I notice this especially during election time, because when it comes to politics, we get real heated. But when somebody says something that's anti what we believe, rather than hearing them out, rather than just sticking around and seeing what they have to say, nope, cancel that motherfucker.
Yep.
And that is the most detrimental thing. Look, it's funny. What's funny is I remember, I'm going to use this as an example, but it kind of applies to the echo chamber thing. When there was a study, there somebody brought up about, all of the amount of black men that voted for Trump, and somebody said something ignorant like, they just couldn't stand to see a black woman succeed. And I was like, did you even listen to what these black dudes that voted for Trump had to say? Because I could tell you what it was. It was a 94 crime bill. It was Joe's long history of being associated with white supremacy. It was Kamala's flip-flopping on various subjects and being the prosecutor in California. Her being a black woman ain't had nothing to do with it. But all that to say, not saying I agree or disagree, but by not being in echo chambers and only listening to people that I agree with, I'm able to have that conversation. I get where these folks are coming from. I ain't got to agree, but I understand it. And that's a very important part to growth. That's a very important part to progress. You can't just be around people that share your same views. That we're not a monolith. Black folks are not a monolith. So, you know what I mean? I ain't saying we gotta agree on all these things, and there are certain views that you might have, and I'm just not gonna rock with. But I'm not gonna be the guy that's gonna cancel you because you have a view opposing me. I'm the guy that will argue with you on the facts as to why what you have to say is wrong. I'm the guy who is going to bring up to you factual information, because one thing I do agree with Ben Shapiro, I don't like a lot of what he got to say, but one thing he said I really agree with is facts don't care about your feelings. And I'm going to present you with the facts to show you why I stand on what I stand on and why I have the viewpoint that I have. You want to bring something that's anti to that? Perfectly fine. Let's have a dialogue. But we cannot exist in this place where whatever our viewpoint is the absolute truth, because truth, this thing that we call truth, is not based on your anecdotal perspective. Truth is based on things that are factual, that are able to be proven, and things that are based on laws. Which in your personal experience of a particular thing may change over time. So, as an example, this entire conversation that we've been having, once I've been able to understand deeper and more fully the way our trauma affects the way I've lived my life, the more control I have over my life to be able to do something about it. If you don't take that power back, you don't have the ability to make something to make a change. And you cannot dismiss somebody who has not discovered the depths of their trauma and is still going through that process.
Absolutely. That's almost like going to, like, when people go to the doctor and they tell the doctor that they have a headache or they got a pain or ailment, and the doctor says, nah, I can't give you no Loratabs because, people do have drug problems. I don't want to give you Loratabs. Now you got to at least figure out what the problem is. They might need those Loratabs. You know what I mean? They might not discover what their real true issue is. So, in a nutshell, to wrap it up, man, in our community, more than anything, we need patience. We got to have patience. Well, before we do that, let's do this. I'm going to wrap it up. This has been a great conversation. Mr. McGee, you have any statements, any closing statements? Do you per se got a show coming up? Because I know you run a show. You could tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my brother, appreciate it, Nino. So yeah, man, I do a show every Wednesday. So I do have a show tomorrow. I got a couple topics on the table, but I'll probably announce it on social media. It's Mr. McGee Show on Facebook. You can go to the search box, search that, and it's Born Rich Club Films for on the YouTube. I'll have to get a banner or something so you guys can find that. But yeah, man, Mr. McGee Show on Facebook. I have a show tomorrow. And when I have open panel shows like this, my brother Nino comes through. and he blesses the panel. So I felt it was only right. And plus, this is a good conversation. I won't even say it like that. I would have pulled up on this conversation. I don't care if it was a white man from Arizona doing it and he opened the panel up. I would have pulled up because this is a great conversation. We're at a time right now. I know you got to wrap it up, Nino, but we're at a time right now.
No,
bro,
take your time, bro.
We're at a time right now where the black family is, I mean, I don't know if it's being dismantled. In my opinion, it's dismantled. So I am about rebuilding and putting it back together. I like identifying the problems. This is a beautiful show because it identifies a lot of the problems. But us as black men and black women, we got to figure out a way to put it back together. We've identified the problems. We need to hear each other out, like the brother Jerry was saying. It's time to hear each other out and not be so bickery back and forth and stuck in our ways. Let's have open minds and hear each other out and work on building the black family, man. Have more babies, man. We need it. That's what we need it. Have more babies.
And they say, hey, have more babies. I know dudes with 7 and 11 kids, man. Don't be saying no shit like that.
Have more babies. I got 3, I got 3 and working on 3 more. So have
oh
more,
my God. All right, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But hey, man, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Jared, you have any closing statements, man?
Man, I'm not gonna come in here to promote nothing but train of thought today. There's 2 things that I really want us as a people to really get. Thing one, everything that we experience is designed to be a lesson in some way, shape, or form. Part of that lesson is our journey to self-discovery. So Mr. McGee was talking about the family is dismantled, and I absolutely agree. And I had an awakening a little while ago when I was having a conversation with my son. And the conversation was around, we got to the fact that, with us, and when I say us, I mean my family, many generational curses that had been in my family for generations were broken based on the simple fact that I subconsciously just decided to break them. And I'm not saying that to say that it was easy. What I'm saying that to say is I decided, since we're talking about family, like I decided that my most important role in life was to be my son's dad, right? And I wear that with a badge of honor because I get to look at my son every day. And I already had my dad. I'm a typical story. I didn't have my dad growing up. I didn't know what that looked like. But what I knew was I wanted to be a father. And so when my son comes along, I get to have these conversations now to tell him, you were on purpose. You were intentional. You were supposed to be here. You were not by accident. You belong here. You are important to this family. And absolutely change his viewpoint. He gets to have a completely different perspective on the world than I have. But secondly, it is very important for us collectively I have this saying that I say oftentimes, America's biggest problem is that America believes its own bullshit. And that applies to us as a people too. We have to stop feeding into the bullshit and deal with the truth of what something is. And when I say truth, I'm talking about the facts, the figures, the verifiable information that tells a story about where things are and how they've gotten to be that way and connect dots. We don't dismiss, like I was saying, viewpoints just because we disagree with them. You take in the information, you see how it compares against the factual information that you're able to verify. It's not about your feelings, but if we don't figure out how to come to an understanding, now understanding doesn't mean full agreement, but if we don't figure out as a people to how to come to an understanding, all of these things that we've talked about over the last 150 years is going to completely knock us out the game. And for us to be the most powerful, most dynamic, most resilient, most prosperous people to ever walk this earth, it would be a shame if the youngest country came in and was our undoing because we believed it's bullshit. Let that go. And that's my final thought.
That was absolutely beautiful, man. I agree. And for everybody, man, this is Mr. Jared Mitchell, the Mitchell Experience. You're going to be seeing a lot of him. You're going to be seeing a lot of him. So pay attention to him, follow him. Get on all his social media platforms. You're gonna see a lot of this brother. I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate you for being here. I'm gonna go on and wrap this thing up. So if you want, you can just stick around for just a minute, bro. So today we were discussing 5 steps to dismantling the black family. 1, black code. 2, man and house rule. 3, white flight, desegregation. 4, war on poverty. 5, the 94 crime bill. You know, throughout history have shown that strategically, systematically, they have done everything in their power to keep us from being the queens and the gods and the kings that we are meant to be. They operate with the 4 Ds: dismiss, discredit, demonize, destroy. Keep in mind, for those of you who still don't understand what those 4 Ds is, you see it every time. A police officer can walk into another man's apartment thinking it's her own and kill him. Before you fully understand what this man is and the things he have accomplished in life, the first thing they're going to post is his mugshot. They're going to tell you about his criminal record because they need to discredit him, then demonize him so you can feel that it was absolutely okay for that officer to destroy him. You've seen this time and time again. It happens every day. George Floyd, Trayvon Martin. Even Trayvon Martin, they show pictures of him throwing up signs, wearing a hoodie. They wanted to demonize him so you can feel like George Zimmerman had a reason to kill him. They do this to us. So when I hear my friends say, oh, George Floyd he was convicted of something. And because he was convicted of something, he deserved to die. He was a thug, a lowlife, a nothing. Dismiss, discredit, demonize, destroy. In our community, we have to A, be forgiving. B, be patient. Understand that each of us are suffering from something. You think we can go from 1935 to 2021 unscathed? No trauma, no PTSD, no post-traumatic slave syndrome, no nothing? Even Jesus Christ was flawed. How is it that we are so able to cut one another off from minor infractions, but we still continuously go to the job that overlook us for promotions, that overlook us from lateral positions, that it's on our ass, that micromanage us? How are we able to go to construction sites where the white supervisor is calling you boy? You can ignore that. But a small infraction from your brother or your sister calls for dismissing. We got to dismiss him. It's cancel culture. The reason why I felt, and I thank Mr. McGee for joining me and Jared for joining me, because as affirmation that this conversation was needed, I felt like it was needed. Because we have to look at the full spectrum of what we're going through. No man wakes up and decide, I just don't want to be a father today. I'm going to run. It's something else going on inside there. Something else. A woman would never understand the struggle that a man fight to try to figure out why a man leaves and don't want to be a father. Just like a man would never understand the pressures that a single mother faces in raising a child. So as a community, we have to be forgiving. We have to be loving. We have to be understanding. We have to be patient with one another. I tell people all the time, don't call me a black leader. The reason why I don't want you to call me a black leader, because the moment I have a misstep, you're going to cancel me. I don't care how many communities I've fed, how many children I've mentored, how many women I've helped, how many lives I've saved, how many children I've rescued. No matter what, that doesn't matter. The moment that I make a misstep, the moment you hear something about me negative, you're going to destroy me. Don't call me a black leader. Because all you're going to do is implement the dismiss, the discredit, the demonize, and the destruction. Just have they have of the black man, which allowed the dismantling of the black family. It's your man Nino Black. This is Black Thoughts. Thank y'all for joining me. Have a blessed day.
You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. Tally all the fucks I ever gave on